All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's presentation, draft presentation of the Advisory Board. I am Paul Edwards. I'm the Director of Secondary Education for the Garrett County Public Schools. I want to thank the members of the Advisory Committee that came out tonight. For everyone that's tuning in at home, the last slide, there will not be any comments or questions taken tonight. As the draft presentation is done. But the last slide on the presentation, which will be archived, will have the email address that if you have thoughts or comments or questions, please feel free to reach out to that email address. All of those thoughts and comments will be shared with the committee. The committee was created by the superintendent and tasked with analyzing several specific criteria related to a possible move of Accident Elementary to Northern Middle School and the movement of the 8th grade from Northern Middle School to Northern High School. There were several parents, staff members, teachers, and administrators on that committee, or I should say are on that committee. Our work is not done. What is going to be presented tonight is a draft just to get the thoughts out to the public so you can see some of the ideas and thoughts and investigation that has come forth out of the committee. That draft will then be fine-tuned. There were some lingering questions from the committee that we've sought answers to from other members of the central office staff, and that information is coming in. That information will be incorporated into the final draft that will be presented to the superintendent in January. With that, I am very pleased to introduce our presenters tonight, two parents who have been very involved in this process since this started. The conversation sort of started a while ago, and that is Miss Jess Brown and Miss Stephanie Boyd. So, ladies, if you would come up, and thank you in advance for your presentation and all of your hard work.
Hello. All right, so as Mr. Edwards stated, that we were tasked with several different categories to consider. So our first one is our student enrollment trends. So looking back over the past several years, it is evident that as a county, we are seeing a decline in our enrollment, which is essentially affecting a lot of our current budget issues. As a committee, we are looking at to see if there's an additional pre-K classrooms from what is presented in our floor plan map of accident moving to Northern Middle, if it is sufficient. As we do have pre-K 3 and consistently in accident, we have been having 2 pre-K 4 classrooms. And we want to make sure that we do provide a sufficient amount of pre-K opportunities for our community. There is a concern about the closure of accident for a private school to take over that building space once it goes back to the county commissioners. And if that were to happen, the potential for a higher percentage of student decline in enrollment from Accident Elementary. And looking back from last year's enrollment trend to this year's enrollment trend, on the southern area, they did lose 64 students. However, the northern area gained 14 students this school year.
So the next category that we were asked to investigate was the age or the condition of buildings. It is projected that Accident Elementary's renovation will cost $2.5 million. I believe that includes a roof, some paving, some grading of the outdoor space, things like that. Northern Middle School's renovation to accommodate the relocation of accident to the middle school would be estimated at $1.2 million. We did request some specific details regarding this estimate, kind of including what that encompasses, whether that cost would be efficient to actually make that move, including the things like the smaller bathrooms and moving all of the outdoor space and the smaller furnishings, things like that, that would be needed to accommodate the younger age demographic. One of the other questions is, if the North would continue to grow, what does that space look like 5 to 10 years down the road? Do we have a little bit of space or wiggle room within the northern end? Is there actually enough space to accommodate all of the needs? It was determined that the ratio for the state, what word am I looking for? State rated capacity, that's what it is. We would be under that 100% mark, but it does seem like fitting all of the programs within this current building would be snug, just based off of the current looks. We were wondering if the playground and the outdoor space was included in the renovation cost, as it is noted that the current allotment of outdoor space would need to be increased to what is comparable to the current Axton Elementary School outdoor area. One of the other things that was noted is that Hickory is close by. However, we would not be able to use that space as other classes and schools do utilize it throughout the day. The superintendent has confirmed that we would be moving the barn in the high tunnel, so we appreciate that confirmation for the community. We did note that signage and a crosswalk would be needed if the elementary school moves to the middle school, specifically out here in front of the school for safety. That area is used for delivery trucks and people going to Camp Hickory and things like that. So although not a busy road, it is still a road. We did note that the football field and track area would be available for students. The pond area would also be available to elementary students, which we do not currently have a pond at Accident. The gym space was a concern, but it was noted that it could be divided, and we also would have access to the dance room for additional PE space if needed. And like we said before, middle school would still be under the capacity based off of the square footage.
So our next category of conversation is transportation. So currently at Axton Elementary, we have 7 buses that transport all of our students. So by bringing them straight to the middle school building with a possible relocation, that would add in 3 additional buses to that loop, as there are currently 3 buses that only travel to Accident Elementary and not to the middle school. Because of this not having to make that stop at Accident Elementary, we could potentially have an additional 10 minutes added to the school day. It will be up to the scheduling to determine if that will be adjusted, whether it's additional school time or if changes will be made during dismissal time if the elementary school students were to board the buses earlier than the older students. And then also with transportation, GCPS would no longer have to provide transportation for 8th graders and 9th graders back and forth between the middle school and the high school.
Educational programs was something we probably spent the most time on within the community. So one of the first things that was noted, and I'm going to jump a little bit around with the order of this one, is that would there be enough physical space in the media center for pre-K through 7 books, as it already is a pretty full media center. So the thought of bringing the entire elementary school's library over, we were just kind of curious about that. And we also did not want our 6th and 7th graders to lose any of the current research components that they already have access to. We've been told that the library and the main core classes are integrated pretty well, and a lot of the students spend a lot of time in the library, which is a great opportunity. So we didn't want them to lose that based off of the elementary school students also needing some library experience. We also wanted it to be noted that Accident is a 5-star school. Northern Middle School is a 4-star school, and Northern High School is a 4-star school, and those just recently came out. It was determined that Title I could potentially be offered to the 6th and 7th grade. That's undetermined, as that is a government program, so you can't kind of promise anything with that at this point. For the 8th graders, there would be some expanded educational opportunities. They would have access to fine arts at the high school, theater, art, band, chorus, some increased technology classes, JROTC. They could even potentially do some micro classes or some expanded CTE learning. They could also potentially have some more electives that could be offered based off of the additional staff within the building. Some of the opportunities for 6th and 7th grade, Included the assistance for more instructional staff just from having more adults in the building. We did note that they would have access to the barn, the high tunnel, things like that, that accident would bring with them, and they do not currently have. You could also potentially have some mentoring opportunities for the 6th and 7th grade students in combination with the kindergartners or pre-K, things like that. Potential opportunities for the elementary school would be some involvement in student government, potential for a science lab, potential computer science, potential dance, potential Judy Center. That's also another government type grant program, so that's no promise. Potential to have additional band and chorus opportunities. The outdoor space would probably be less than what we currently have at Accident, just based off of how Accident is flat and things like that. So there may potentially be a few decreased opportunities there, but we did want to note that the elementary school already does have access to a barn, an arboretum, the walking trail, outdoor learning pavilion, and they also do already participate in some mentoring and kinder buddy type activities.
So the next category is racial composition. If with this change should happen, honestly, it will not change. So that will not be affected. And then going into some financial considerations, so looking into the renovation costs, the committee has asked and requested for a larger breakdown of the renovations that will happen at Northern Middle School, as the 1.2 million has been put into the CIP as a placeholder, but it would be good to have a more specific breakdown of the individual costs and expenses there, as well as in comparison to what is needed at Accident Elementary School with the roof and parking lot changes. So we're also curious to know the true cost savings in staff. It was noted in the superintendent's presentation that it was about $306,000 that would be possibly saved in staff expenses. So the committee would like to have a little bit more information on what that looks like and who those staff categories are. Another thing that we really need to consider for the board is what a 5-year projection cost savings would look like for that combination. So what the over 5-year period, what the operational cost savings would be from not having the accident building opened. And then next, of the student relocations, we will not need any temporary housing or locations for the students should this go forward, as students from Accident would not move to Northern Middle School until the building is ready for them.
The next slide is about the impact on the community. One of the things that was noted within our committee was that we would eliminate the dedicated presence in the north for the central office staff. Currently, there is a office here at the middle school that central office staff does utilize, and that would need to be removed from the middle school in placement for space for our children. We also wanted to note that this is kind of an emotional stress on families and children and how that can impact them. We wanted to note that although this is still technically Accident, businesses in Accident could be impacted. Presently, there are some, being so close to the local businesses in Accident, that convenience factor of being able to run out to the gas station or go to the bakery or things like that. That does happen, especially with parents, teachers, things like that. So we did want to note that economic impact. We would also be losing some indoor and outdoor space for sports, dance, theater. We all know that comes at a premium already. So losing the gymnastics space right after school or things like that, we would just really, I think a lot of our kids would feel that loss of recreational space, especially in the wintertime. That's when I think we see the crunch most often. We would also lose some potential outside practice space to accommodate the barn, the high tunnel, things like that. Some of the areas up here at the middle school are currently used for practices for the middle school in the fall and in the spring. We would also lose the direct access to the community with some walking field trips. So if the elementary school would move to the middle school, they no longer can walk to a post office or a library or the town hall, things like that they currently do. We also wanted to note that the PTO structure will change. That is something that Accident has a very strong PTO and is very supportive of the community of students. And what that would actually look like in the future is a little bit of an unknown.
And then we had some other factors that we couldn't really fit nicely into the categories that we were charged with talking. So we wanted to make sure that we do bring these to attention. So safety has been one of the concerns, especially with trying to find a possible additional exit out to 219, as there's only one current entry and exit onto the northern complex, and then bringing a larger number of elementary school students onto the complex. And then looking at the emergency preparedness and seeing how that possibly changes, because we are now not only needing to evacuate middle school age students, but elementary school students. So making sure that seeing what those changes look like for getting pre-K 3 students out of the school building if ever necessary. We'd like to know if this change would stabilize the programs and opportunities that we currently have to make sure that things wouldn't be taken away, even in regards to these savings. We also noted that there isn't another school system that is modeled like this, and there is also no really evidence-based to refer back to on what is the best grade band model, as superintendent has also noted that it is best, the research is based on how everything performs inside that building, not necessarily based on that grade band. So there's no real data to kind of support the decision either way on this for us to give reference to. We'd also like to note that there isn't any data collected yet from the Southern change for the 7th and 8th grade students moving to the high school. So to make note of that. There is some concern at the maturity levels for our 8th grade students and what that looks like as they get ready to move into the high school. And then trying to incorporate the other 6th and 7th grade students coming from Friendsville, Route 40, and Grantsville, and merging them into Accident Elementary students who will already be established with the school building, and seeing what that transition for them would be like. So that concludes the findings that the advisory committee has put together. If you have any additional comments, questions, concerns that you would like the advisory to consider in regards to putting it together in our final presentation, please email the email that's up there at public.comment@garrettcountyschools.org. Thank you.